So welcome to the channel. We were in Melbourne for the 3rd annual Dymax Australia Aquascaping competition. This video is just a little bit of an introduction to aquascaping and what the channel of JK Aquatics will be about. I'm Josh, and let's get into the video. First off, I'll introduce myself. Please excuse my eyes shooting off to the left. I've got a few things written down. Being a first video, I just wanted to try and get as much as possible written down so I can get the information out to you properly. Videos in the future will be a lot more off the cuff. But yeah, just as a first video, I wanted to make sure that it came across like I had some information there. So first off, just to introduce myself, I'm Josh, and welcome to the first video on my channel, JK Aquascaping. Pretty much what this channel is going to be about is just showcasing aquascaping in Australia and bringing our aquascaping world, our little known aquascaping world, into the world stage using YouTube. Throughout the videos on the channel, I'll be trying to put up one a week. Sometimes I won't be able to, but I want to try and keep getting some videos out. I'll be going through some of my aquascapes. Yeah, look, I'm just going to move this computer here. I'll be going through some of my aquascapes to show you tips and tricks of my own aquascapes at home, as well as a selection of fish for the scapes, because aquascaping, although it can definitely be about just the art form of the tank itself, the way that I do my aquascapes, which is similar to MD in the UK, is all of my scapes that I do are generally a home for fish. I know that some aquascapes out there are purely for the art form and don't necessarily offer the best environment for the fish. Not to say that they're a bad environment, but the way that I go about it, I definitely try to keep things at a level where it's natural for fish and they feel like they have hiding spots, feel like it's an actual home for themselves. I know there are a few channels over the world that do this sort of thing. For example, like I've already mentioned, MD in the UK and Green Aqua in Hungary. So I wanted to try and have something a bit more further away from their area of the world. And Australia is pretty much as far as you can get from most places in the world, to be perfectly honest. Yesterday I completed, or sorry, not yesterday, day before, I completed the 3rd annual Dymax Australia Aquascaping competition, where we had to scape one of Dymax's GS60 aquariums. Now, like everyone in the videos says, not sponsored by Dymax at all. They were just who held the I'm not sponsored by Dymax at all, they're just who held the competition, and we were lucky enough to be able to take our scapes home, as well as the light filter and the tank. So very thankful to Dymax Australia, Jem and Mark from Dymax Australia especially, who put it on and spent a lot of money on everything for us to be able to do what we love to do. We had 5 hours to completely scape the tank from scratch, so completely empty. They provide us with everything we need, a huge selection of driftwood, like you can see in my tank here, Tweedy wood, which I haven't used at all in this tank, although I told them that that's what I was going to use, but I decided to go a different way on the day. They provided us with a lot of pine rock that you can see in my tank, as well as dragonstone, which is more of, for those of you who don't know, which is more of a sort of mud clay based rock, sort of in some ways looks sort of a little bit like honeycomb nearly. It has a lot of crevices and holes in it, which can create some very nice different looking scapes. Everything you see in the tank was provided by Dymax, all Dymax products, the base soil, the sand, the rock. The plants were provided by Dymax through another company. I'm not sure of who the plant company was, but they were again all provided from them by Dymax. All the wood, everything you see here was completely provided by Dymax and is available to purchase from fish shops. I've just realised that door being open, you're going to hear things in the background, so bear with me one sec. So yeah, everything's available. I'm pretty sure that Dymax Australia don't have a website that you can purchase directly through them. They specifically provide small business aquariums and that family-owned businesses with aquarium products. They don't generally provide to places in Australia like Pet Barn or anything like that. Not sure why, could be wrong. That's just what I was led to believe. Pet Barn and other places obviously have different stockists and different contracts with different people, but Dymax Australia, you can get them generally from your local fish stores and all of that, because most local fish stores are family owned anyway, so it shouldn't be a problem finding these Dymax products. Just a little bit more about that aquascaping day. Dymax Australia were terrific. They provided us with everything that we needed. If there was something we asked for, within about 10 minutes they'd gone out and sourced it from somewhere. Whether it was cups to put in sand and rock, whether it was spray bottles to wet down the substrate to start planting, anything that we asked for, they went and got for us. If they didn't have it, they went and got it for us. At a huge selection, as I said, of plants, wood, rock. The selection of plants was enormous. Your Monte Carlos, Crips, baby tears, Java fern, Liliopsis, Anubia. I'm not 100% up with all the names of the plants, but I know that that's some of the stuff that I've got in this tank here. But there was literally everything that we wanted. Alodia, moss, Java moss, all of that sort of stuff. They had it there. There wasn't really anything that you had to think about. If you wanted it, it was there, which made it so much easier to escape the tank, because you weren't having to change things around, weren't having to plant different plants that you didn't want to plant. Everything they had was there. I will apologise for the black base soil that you see at the bottom of the tank here, since I had to empty the tank and bring it home. Some of the substrate moved around a little bit because it's sloped quite significantly up towards the back, so some of the sand fell away on the drive home and exposed some of this. I was thinking about trying to fix it, but I honestly couldn't be bothered spending an hour trying to get rid of all of the little bits and pieces, so I do apologise to anyone out there that's driving crazy. But yeah, I think I'll just leave it for the time being, unless for some reason the nutrients from it give me a bit of an algae bloom or something. I think I'll just leave it for the time being. I'm Josh, and I just wanted to welcome you to the world of Australian aquascaping. I wanted to try and bring a bigger, well-known channel that's not just me, that has other aquascapers from Australia, and I'm based in Victoria, so there'll probably be a lot more from Victoria, as diesel's really expensive and I'm not driving to Perth because I'll need a second mortgage for that one. Mainly the idea of all of this, and this being a first video, is probably going to come across not very well put together, but it's something that I'll learn. You watch any YouTuber's first 10 videos, they're terrible compared to their new ones. I'm sure that I'll get a new camera, I'll get a new microphone, because this thing was about $2 off eBay a couple of years ago, and I just had it lying around, and I thought it might get a little bit better audio than the GoPro that I'm using now to film this. But I wanted to sort of showcase a little bit more what we had available in Australia. I know that there are a lot of companies all over the world that provide plants, rock, wood, all of that. Not all of that is available in Australia, unfortunately, being a little bit further away from everywhere. Not everything can get shipped to us. You know, for example, I know a lot of aquatica plants are used overseas, especially in Europe, and they're quite a well-known brand amongst aquascapers, even in Australia. So yeah, I wanted to showcase some of the stuff that we had more readily available in Australia, which may not be that different from stuff across the world, but they are different suppliers, so they may be slightly different colours, maybe smaller, maybe bigger. I'm not sure, but I just wanted to sort of, yeah, go over some of the stuff that we had. Just reading notes here. Pretty much over the next couple of months, I will speak to some of the other competitors that were in the competition. There are some from Brisbane, some from Sydney. I think it was only from those eastern states that anyone came down from. Obviously a lot of people from Melbourne, because it was held in Melbourne, so it was much easier for me to get to. But I want to go around with the trusty GoPro and the terrible mic that I've got at the moment, go and speak to other people that were in the competition, see their setups, see their fish rooms, if they have fish rooms, see the tanks that they have in their house, and sort of go through things, open up some avenues for people who love doing this, and open up some avenues for people who don't know how to get into this hobby or are just completely not sure where to turn to. I want to open up some areas for people. I know that the people that competed in the competition came from the north, south, east, west of the state of Victoria, and again a few from Sydney and Brisbane. I probably won't be able to see them. I might get them on Zoom or Skype or FaceTime or something like that and speak to them and get them to send through a few photos and speak to them about their aquascaping journeys. This, by now you might not even be watching. This may end up being a very boring video for you, but there'll definitely be some more interesting things coming in the near future. But yeah, I suppose that's pretty much all from me to begin with now. I'll close the computer because that's all of the stuff that I had written down. Let me move around for a second. But yeah, I suppose just sort of quickly run you through this tank. I did have a time lapse going of how I built it. And unfortunately the battery ran out on the camera, so pretty unusable in the end because it stopped when I put about 3 pieces of wood in, unfortunately. But so essentially sort of walk you through how I've done this scape here, just very quickly, not in too much depth. But so essentially I came into the competition, I sort of knew what I wanted to do. I'd be surprised if there was many people who came into this competition not having some idea of what they wanted to do. Some people had pictures already of what they wanted to do, so they followed their plan. Some people, like myself, just had it in their head and I just worked and, you know, found things. But I wanted to create sort of a foresty sort of look. My original idea was I wanted it to look a little bit more like roots, but I decided, I found some of these lovely pieces of driftwood and decided to make a bit more of a rainforest, or a forest scape as they're called. So yeah, essentially just started placing things in the tank. To anyone watching this wanting to do this at home, trying in a small tank, a big tank or something, I'll go over things in more detail and I'll get another small aquarium, like this, maybe something 3 foot, although this 2 foot actually is not a bad little tank, if you can call it a little tank, not a bad little tank to do it in, generally because it can be an expensive hobby sometimes. So sometimes the smaller the tank, the cheaper things can be, and you can still get something that looks lovely. Or, you know, if you wanted to do something like this, doing this in a 3 foot tank that's, you know, going to be sitting out here somewhere, you need a lot more wood, a lot more plants, a lot more substrate, a lot more rock, and then things can get, you know, adding an extra foot to a tank. One, you've got to purchase the tank, which can be expensive, although there's Gumtree, Facebook Marketplace, all of that, which I've got a lot of tanks off there, second hand, and they're great tanks. But, you know, adding an extra foot to this tank could make the cost of this, you know, a few $100s more expensive, maybe, you know, $500 more expensive, just depending on what you're putting into it. But yeah, so essentially what I did is I just started with, when there was nothing in here, just clean bottom, started just sitting some of these wood pieces in there just to get an idea of how I wanted things to move. It's a very grey area when you first start to when the first pieces actually go in, because I probably spent the first 45 minutes or so without actually putting anything in properly. I know that some people who had drawings of what they wanted to do within seconds had gone and put rocks down and started gluing wood to those rocks to start creating their scapes, but I sort of just slowly went around and picked through all of the wood that was available and found pieces that I liked. This is, how many is in here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 if you include the little piece at the front, but there's 8 logs, I'll say, in here, of varying degrees of thickness and length and whatnot. And I just picked through, I probably had about 20 pieces that I'd picked out, which when it comes to a competition makes it easier because you can pick through things and choose what you want. If you're doing this at home, it's a little bit harder to sort of go down to your local fish shop and pick those pieces to begin with. Can take a little bit of planning, but generally, you know, you pick some things that have character and you can't really go wrong, even if it's not exactly what you were looking for. Pieces with character like this, that's got sort of the cutout with, you know, this is where the branch would have been connected to the tree down here. You know, bits and bobs that have got character rather than being flat and smooth. You can never really go wrong, even if it's not exactly what you envisaged to begin with. Yeah, character is terrific in a fish tank. There's always something going on in an aquascape when you've got character in the wood and the rocks and that. So yeah, I pretty much sort of started placing things around and then started gluing the driftwood to rocks, literally just sort of holding it together, gluing rocks to the bottom to help it weigh down, to keep it in place, using tissue paper and the Dymax super glue that they had available there, which is non-toxic and safe for the fish. Yeah, so putting glue on, gluing rocks, you know, this has a big rock under it that's glued. I'm not sure if you can see the piece up the back, you know, that's sitting on a rock. You can't even see that rock in the scape, but it's glued to it, not moving. You know, you've got bits and bobs like that, you know, I'm giving that a good move. That moves a little bit, you're always going to get a little bit of movement, but, you know, all pretty in tight. Some of these pieces are glued together as well as being connected by rocks, so it's a very strong scape, I'll call it, when it comes to the fact that you don't have to worry if it gets moved or anything like that. It's stiff, it's not moving, which also helps when you start to put substrate in on rocks. You don't have to worry about things teetering and balancing and worried about things falling over. They're all in there nice and hard, nice and tight. And then from there, pretty much the next step that I did after I put in the wood. That piece went in later. That was, I decided I wanted something there other than rock. I pretty much just started layering the substrate up, whereas these rocks in the front might look very deliberate with where they've been put. Essentially the way that I go about things is, so they had bigger rocks, hammers, so you smash things up and all of that. So essentially all I did was I put down a layer of substrate at the front, stacked some rock on top of that, poured a little bit more of a layer of the substrate, and all of the substrate that I used for this layering was that base soil, the round sort of black or brown stuff that you'll see on the camera, and just slowly stepped it up to the back. Like for example, the back of the tank is at that height, so it's a fairly sizable step up. It's a little bit higher on this side than it is that side, because I wanted to create that channel through that way. So as you can see here where it's quite heavily planted, that was more to create sort of a wall of plants and wood, and to make the eye look towards out the back here at the vanishing point. Not to say that I did it perfectly. The judges, I spoke to them afterwards, I needed to create a little bit more of a vanishing point, you know, things like this wood being slightly too close to the glass at the front. You know, just little things, you know, when it comes to competition, these are the things that judges will pick you up on. You know, just little technical things. But yeah, so where that rock looks very deliberate and stacked, it is in a way, but it was also very random. It was just creating sort of a dam wall with the rocks, pouring some more substrate in, then the next rocks were placed a little bit further back than the last ones and on top, and then created again, which is where you see you've got one, two, three layers of rocks just in that open area there. And then pretty much from there started putting the capping sand in. Just started with the front, started planting. We've got some Monte Carlo and all of that in there, with moss, Liliopsis up the front, some Anubis in the front as well, along there. Probably should have put one in here, you know, but you live and you learn. And then pretty much from there, started filling it up a little bit more, putting some more capping sand in all the way up, and then started planting the stems. And there wasn't a huge range of red stems to choose from. It's unfortunately what the supplier had available. Plenty of green. I mean, when I say there wasn't a huge amount of red stems, there were still hundreds of red stems to choose from, but I wanted to make sure that with the Crips and the Java Fern and the Red Baby Tears and all of that, that I had, a mixture of reds throughout. So when you're looking through, there's a little bit of difference in colour. There is actually a couple of red plants back here that probably should have put slightly to the front compared to some of the other stems that I've got in there, but it just creates a little bit more colour, because you can get very sidetracked when it comes to stems and planting, because there's obviously so much green, and sometimes just those little hints of red with the wood that's in there can create a more natural looking environment rather than wood, sand and green. But I don't think I'll go for too much longer in the video, just so it doesn't become the longest video you've ever watched on YouTube. But this is, my escape. Unfortunately, I didn't place. A few technical problems I shouldn't say technical problems. Few technical elements that I didn't do quite properly or not as well as I would have wanted to. But this is the first time I've done the competition. Some of the other guys have done the other two, this being the third annual National Aquascaping competition. So I'm really looking forward to next year, which will be in Brisbane, later in the year next year in Brisbane. So there'll be more than a 12-month gap between the competitions. But I'm looking forward to, over the next 12 months or so, to see some of the other people that were in the competition and sort of really get more into the world of aquascaping. A lot of my stuff I don't always purchase. I have a lot of creeks and rivers around where I live, and I just love to go down there and find big rocks and big branches, and you know, cut them up, snap them. Generally I like to snap things because it creates a more natural look to the wood. So for example, like up here where you've got quite a square flat cut, even being out of the water doesn't matter as much, but compared to some of the things like the wood over here where they have those natural ends where a branch is snapped, look a lot more natural and nice, as opposed to flat straight cuts. So I generally go down and start snapping branches, snapping, you know, whatever I can, as well as getting big river rock. And you don't need to use the rock in its full, you know, round form. Go with a sledgehammer to it and start getting some things, you know, that are all cracked and broken that look like jarred rock, and it makes a big difference. But yeah, so I might call it here. This is now 27 minutes I've been going for. I'll probably cut out a few little bits and pieces. But yeah, this is me. I'm Josh, and this is JK Aquascaping, and I hope that you watch a few more videos and get into the wonderful world that is aquascaping, because it's something that 5 years ago really wasn't known. I definitely didn't know about it. I mean, I've only been keeping fish for 18 months or so, and my first tank had a very small layer of white pebbles and a few fake plants with a goldfish. And if you look at that tank that I had back then to the tank that is right here right now in 18 months, only been really aquascaping for 6 of those months. I'm stoked. I'm very happy with the way that it looks. Looking forward to doing more and sort of being in that aquascaping community. So it's me signing off. Thank you for watching. Thanks for sticking around for 25-30 minutes or so to listen to the crap that I've got to say. There will definitely be more interesting videos coming. Probably the next video I'll be looking to do a 6-foot skate. And yeah, we'll go from there. So thank you very much for watching. Look forward to meeting and seeing and hearing from some of you guys soon, and feel free to send us a message or like, comment. I'm not going to ask you to like, comment and subscribe like anyone else, because at this stage 1 video and I think 0 subscribers, it's fair to say that I'm somewhat of an internet phenomenon right now. So yeah, thank you. Look forward to seeing you again soon.